Hello YouTube, Saturn EV here, and you are currently looking at my car. This is a 2009 Subaru Outback. This was actually a hand-me-down of my sister's. So when she moved to New York, about a couple of years ago now at this point, she moved from California all the way to New York across the country for a job opportunity, and she didn't need the car, so she left it with us, and here we are. So I used to have a 2002 Buick Century, and the reason I got rid of that is because it had some issues with the head gasket, and that was just going to be a total costly repair that was going to cost more than what the car was worth at that point. So, but we still had the Subaru Outback sitting in the front, so now that's what I've been driving for the past year or so. Okay, so the reason I'm making this video is because as of late it's been having a coolant issue. So what happened was the Buick Century had a coolant leak, and that was caused by the head gasket on that car. Well, a year later, exactly the year later, the same exact time last year, the Buick had a leak. Well, a year later, the Subaru started having a leak as well with the coolant. So, what happened? Well, I was driving the other day. I think it was like, I don't know, the last couple of days of August or so, and I noticed that when I was driving, the temperature gauge was overheating. It was actually getting above the average temperature range. I was like, oh shit, what's going on here? Like this car it seems, so basically I think I was driving to the grocery store or something, and I noticed there was some liquid underneath the car, and I was like, I hope that's not me. Well, guess what? It was me. So basically, out of the blue, the Subaru Outback started having a coolant leak. So basically, the next day, I took it to a local Brakes Plus place here, and I wanted them to tell me what exactly was wrong with the car. Well, long story short, they didn't really fix anything. They didn't tell me what was wrong with the car. All they did was they did a pressure test. I paid like $22 for it, and they refilled the low coolant level, which they said the coolant was low. Okay, that's great, but they didn't tell me what was actually causing the leak. And what was also weird is that they didn't say there was a coolant leak. Okay. So you're basically giving me the symptom of something without telling me the issue, which the issue is a coolant leak. So that, I don't know what sense that makes. So from there, they did the service, right? And then from there, I actually drove 2 hours north of here. I drove 2 hours to Denver, stayed at my parents' house for the weekend, and then I came back. And suddenly, the next day I came back here, the coolant level, the temperature level rather, went up again. So I was like, oh shoot, they didn't fix anything after all. Like it seems like they said they did. So I was under the impression that they fixed something or lowered the pressure or whatever, and that was the cause of the issue, the so-called issue. Well, there was nothing they fixed, really. So I was like, okay, well, I still have coolant in the back of my car, so I was like, well, I'm not going to be driving as much because I actually live really close to the university. That's actually why I moved down here. I moved into a new apartment here, as you can see. So, as of late, I've been taking my bike, which takes me like 10 minutes or so each way to the campus that I live by here. So, I was like, alright, well, at this point, I'm just going to be using this car for groceries and stuff like that, for when I actually do need to use the car to transport a large bulk amount. So, My only question for you guys that know anything about cars is, what do you think is causing the coolant leak? So I'm guessing that it's probably due to a cheap part that's failing. Either it could be due to a hose, a faulty hose. That's pretty common for a lot of coolant leaks on many cars. It could also be, who knows what. It could also just be a loose clamp. I don't know. So, for anybody that knows what, or if anybody that's worked with cars a lot in the past, what do you think is the cause of the coolant leak that I have here? So, and to give you a little bit more context, I did a little bit of a test. So, like, I went out to lunch, and I went out, and then I went to Lowe's the other day, and basically I noticed the temperature get hot again, right? So I go to lunch, I wait like 30 minutes to an hour. I think it was like close to an hour at that point. I filled up the car with more of the coolant that I had in the trunk, and from there the temperature was normal. It was just stagnant, right? It was just solid. It was just, it wasn't really moving. It wasn't really going up. The temperature wasn't increasing at all when I drove home. I think it was like a 10-minute drive or something. 10 minutes later, after I put the coolant in, the temperature was just at a stagnant neutral. So, from there, that explains a lot, because on my 2002 Buick Century, as I said earlier, that also had a coolant leak, and when I would put more coolant in the radiator, the car would just overheat like crazy, right? The coolant was like dripping nonstop. The engine was getting really steamy. When you have those kinds of symptoms, then at that point it's the head gasket. I did not experience those symptoms on this car. So, for any of you guys, like I said, that know cars really well, there's a little bit of context for you. But anyways, now that I talked about that, that is my Octember failure for 2025. Octember seems to have gotten really antsy this year, because it started happening at the last week of August, and here we are. And it's happened to more than one person, actually. So anyways, now that I've kind of covered the car thing, I'll give you a little tour of the apartment that I moved into. So I moved into a town that's 2 hours south of where I lived originally. So that's the traffic. You can probably hear there's a really loud truck. So when we moved in, there was a lot of ants on the ground. The ants were just crazy. Like, the ants in this part of the state of Colorado are just all over the place, right? So basically what I did was I sprinkled a lot of the ant shock, the granular shock, and I noticed that almost a week later the ants have cooled down a little bit. They're still there. They're still all over the place and going crazy, but there's a lot less of it, which is really good. I'm going to have to sprinkle more of that stuff down. But anyways, let's go in and I'll show you, I'll give you a brief tour of my apartment. So, you notice another issue? Yeah, this carpet is really bad. It is just gross looking. On move-in day, I think my dad tripped on this little piece briefly when we were like carrying up couches and heavy stuff and tables. This carpet is just nasty. We should really consider getting with the landlord at some point to just consider ripping all this old carpeting out, because this piece right here can actually be a tripping hazard. So anyway, go inside, and I'll just show you kind of my place in its current state. It's all kind of a mess right now. There's still boxes everywhere. Most of it's all in disarray. I moved in here about 2 weeks ago at this point, And this is my bike. This is a Specialized bike that we also fixed fairly recently, because a year ago it actually had a really faulty derailleur. I was actually in the middle of switching gears and the chain got all messed up and the derailleur got all screwed up. So, but it's fixed now. That's what water under the bridge. So anyway, this is the living room in its current state. I have toilet paper there because I don't have any tissues. It's my TV. Boxes everywhere. This is the kitchen in its current state. I'm not a neat freak, so that's why I'm not so quick to be putting stuff away. And this is my little cafe table. It's my salt lamp. And oh, another thing while I'm at it. So this AC unit is also on the fritz. For any people that know LG, I'll give a shout out here. Sharky626 once said LG stands for lots of grief. Well, that is the issue that I've been having with this air conditioner. I don't know exactly how old this air conditioner is. I think it might be, I don't know, probably within the last 5 years or so, maybe longer. I don't know. I don't have a date. But anyway, when I moved in, the first day it was blowing fine until several days later, I would turn on the AC and it would be blowing cool air for like 10 minutes after I power it on. And then after that, it stops blowing cool air. The air is just warm. It's like lukewarm. And this is like, we've been having some days where it's been like 90 or lower 90s, upper 80s, so something like that. And yeah, so that is the AC in its current state. We're currently working with our landlord to come up with a solution. It'll be fall in a couple of weeks, so hopefully we won't need it for very much longer. But I just have to say that summer is a season for people who have working machinery, such as air conditioners and AC in your car, AC in your house. If you don't have working machinery, then you're just screwed. Whereas in the wintertime, it's completely opposite, because in the winter, it's much easier to stay warm than it is to cool down. So if your furnace breaks down in the winter, guess what? You're not a victim. You can just put more clothes on. You could put as many layers of jackets as you like. It could be -5 degrees out, and if you don't have working heat, well, you can just kind of rough it out. In the summer, in contrast, not so much. So, anyways, that's my little rant on the whole summer versus winter debate. And I'll show you the balcony. So that's my IKEA table. It's gotten all weathered down, and that's one of the wicker chairs that I had. That's the original light. So I don't know exactly when this place was built. My landlord said it was built in 1987. So I don't know if that's when, but it seems like this apartment's older than that. Like, given the light and stuff like that. I don't know if they still made these kinds of lights in 1987 or if they kind of phased it out. Like that light to me looks a lot more like it came from a house from 1960 or somewhere in that range. Anyways, that is the current state of affairs of what's going on in my life. So yeah, my dad and I rented this place because I am now a college student once again at a local university here. And yeah, so I'll just kind of show you the rest of the place. This is my office again. A lot of it's just kind of in disarray for now. So this is kind of like my little study office area, and it will be my guest room. It'll be awesome in the wintertime. But right now, at the end of the summer, this room just gets way too hot. because, like I said, there's very limited AC. I only have the AC in my bedroom here, which is this portable AC, and the one in the dining room. That's it. That's all I have. So anyways, that is the state of my life. So, thank you guys very much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.